I don't know what to say. All I can say is that I have faith in the legal system, and I hope justice is done. More than that, I have faith in God.
16 तारीख में सुबह पुलिस को खबर दी गई कि श्रुति का कत्ल हुआ है।
A case that shook everyone, had constant debates and deliberations in national news for over 9 years, was investigated by multiple teams and organizations and still had no form of closure, was the double murder case in Noida pertaining to the Talwar family. This especially had a deeper personal impact on me and my family as I grew up through most of my formative years in Noida. The residential properties that were built up as Noida as a city was developing, many Army, Navy and Air Force colonies came up, and one never envisioned for there to be any sign of crime, at least within the confines of the property, which mostly consisted of law-abiding and educated citizens, one of which was Sector 25. Those who follow the channel know my interest in documentaries and especially my annoyance with the lack of well-made Indian crime documentaries that exist on streaming platforms. JCS Criminal Psychology and its offshoots can only do so much. A 4-episode documentary titled The Talwars Behind Closed Doors had released on Hotstar in 2017, but this series had mysteriously vanished from the platform a few years ago. I revisited the platform and saw it appear upon searching. This compelled me to share so much regarding the case and the way in which this series has been made, because it's way more in-depth than the reconstructed and dramatized versions we have seen in the form of films that include Rahasya and Talwar. This documentary looks at both sides, its arguments and fallacies, and that's why I have to recommend it to all of you. Before I start also, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments of this extremely contentious and confusing case that still has no form of clarity. The murder of a 13-year-old girl and a 45-year-old domestic help in May 2008 shook everyone. As the documentary opens with the visuals of the Talwars being released from prison after 4 years in 2017, the case still stands in the atmosphere of ambiguity. Who really committed the double murder of the minor and domestic help? While the first episode highlights the loving family dynamic and the cheerful personality of Arushi, the documentary brings up a pertinent point that stays consistent throughout its running time, and that is the existence of a class divide and bias that is ingrained socially in the minds of the people of India. How and why the media was frothing in the mouth regarding the case was not only because this was a gruesome murder, but there was a case of it providing a commentary on the wide class divide that exists in society. Recounting the events that happened on the day of the murders, I have not seen a documentary in a long time where I have several questions in pure frustration of the sheer incompetence that prevails as a life has been lost. The scene of the crime, where ample evidence can be used to understand exactly what transpired, is treated as any other dinner party, where friends, family, the police, and in some cases the media are given free rein to come in and out, absolutely sabotaging any potential of clarity and understanding motive or action. Is it the case of parents mourning and being in a daze, or the deliberate bystander effect of wanting the chaos to ruin possible leads? The daughter has passed away, and the inspector in charge is instructed by the father to seek out for the location of the domestic help Hemraj, as the family suspects he committed the crime and fled. I haven't been more disturbed by the opening minutes of a documentary than this one, because of the sheer handling of the case when it matters the most. A deceased minor in the midst of several hounding cameras is taken in the back of a jeep for a post-mortem by a makeshift bedsheet that wraps her around. The sheer lack of patience for an ambulance, for actual services to arrive and do their job, will make everyone alarmed. But is it the case of just anxiety and trauma making everyone be in fight or flight mode, or speed running through the formalities to paper over the cracks? Nothing will make you shout in pure anger more than the police identifying blood marks on the stairs leading up to a terrace that has a locked door and not even making an attempt to open it. A feeble asking around for the keys to the door is then casually forgotten. Imagine seeing blood marks leading up to somewhere where it is barricaded by a locked door. As an investigator or even a parent wanting to get to the bottom of the case, wouldn't you break the locks if you genuinely wanted to get to know the truth? A lookout is carried out to find out the location of Hemraj from all over Noida to the border of Nepal, but the blood-soaked stairs and stains in the wall leading up to a terrace of the same building just does not alarm anyone. Before one can even have a say of the interconnection between the deceased daughter and a missing domestic help, the last rites of the daughter are conducted. This is where the case gets even more complicated. The next day, a retired police officer with an interest in the case, KK Gautam, appears out of nowhere and is given access to the scene of the crime, points towards the locked terrace door and urges the people to break the lock, only for it to reveal that Hemraj was lying dead in the terrace all along. While the police has his lookout and are searching for him in Nepal, he lies on the terrace of the same building in which the murders took place. And just like a retired police officer taking the reins of the case with no jurisdiction, the scene of the crime of the terrace becomes another fish market. People coming in and out, sabotaging evidence, walking over bloodstains as if it is immaterial to the eventual findings of the case. Just with the same urgency and lack of care with which they dealt with Arushi's body, Hemraj's corpse is taken in a blood-soaked bedsheet with incompetent officers. Dragging it along the road, one wonders how there could be any recovery of anything substantial when the case gets sabotaged so much so soon. The migrants and voiceless are questioned and harassed. The particulars of the investigation are leaked to the media. The journalists stand like jackals outside the house waiting for their prey. Dry news cycles are given new spins. The police gives free rein to the media through sections of the house and garage, but the family is advised to stay away from giving statements. And what happens, especially in a country like India, is that silence provides the opportunity for those having no idea about the case to stir the pot and make their own conclusions. The pressure of the media and public on the police force to crack the case becomes even more overwhelming, and the infamous press conference occurs, where the incompetence and unpreparedness of the force becomes even more evident. The press conference flung accusations of extramarital affairs of the parents, a case of honor killing done in a moment of rage, and a character assassination in many ways of not only the deceased daughter but the parents as well. One lawyer exclaims that the pressure of a high-profile case like this is to implicate the innocent and claim victory over cracking the case. While the investigation is still in full swing, shockingly something that has never happened, the CBI takes over merely 15 days after the UP police had started the investigation regarding the double murder. Before the ink even dried up, as one expert mentions, the CBI took over. This is when a sense of professionalism prevails in the way the case is investigated, but it's still far from conclusive. The first team of the CBI investigates the case from the POV of the perpetrators being Krishna, the help in the clinic, and Rajkumar, the domestic help of the family friend, who drank in the servant quarters and attempted to sexually abuse the child, killed her in a scuffle, and killed Hemraj on the terrace. Heavily dependent on a narco analysis that is not admissible in court, the first CBI team found the servants guilty, while concluding that the parents were right in mentioning how the sound of the AC was loud enough in not knowing that there is commotion happening in the other room. But the vague nature of associating a kukri to a Nepalese man as his murder weapon and a pillow cover found in his house having stains of Hemraj's blood was a long shot, and even the team does not have enough evidence, both from the narco test and the findings of the supposed weapons, that the servants did the crime. This is where the case falls flat, and a new CBI team is employed that has its eyes on the parents again, just like the UP police. There is a stark analysis done on the behavior of the parents in public interviews, the annoyance of the investigators on the trial by media done by the parents, and especially the hyper breakdown on the apparent stoic nature of Nupur Talwar, who for some was just not sad enough for a mother who lost her child. The second team did not investigate the servants at all and relied on the closed-door mystery that the burden lies in the house, just like the Agatha Christie novel Murder on the Orient Express, where the killer has to be on the train as there has been no entry or exit on its journey till now. With the ghastly attack outside Ghaziabad court, the awful and sinister media coverage, all the developments were being stacked against the family. The hypothesis of the second team heavily relied on Bharti Mandal, the domestic help, who appeared at 6 a.m. and noticed that the mesh door between two doors was locked. Instructed by Nupur Talwar to catch the keys downstairs and open it from outside was a way in order to buy time and set up the scene for morning. While this was questioned as the domestic help was presumably tutored, it was enough for the judge Shamlal to point the fingers at the parents for committing the crime and setting up the scene of being victims for everyone else. What's crazy about this case, as Nupur and Rajesh were released from prison in 2017, is that no one still knows who committed the double murder of Arushi and Hemraj. Was this the case of mistrial against the parents or a deliberate sabotage of the initial investigation of the case, so much so that the grey that does exist today was all artificially manufactured? How does a random retired police officer take the reins of the case? How does the police not immediately inquire on what happens behind a locked door when a trail of blood leads to it? Was there a case of covering up elements that could have caused shame to the family? Were samples tampered in the process of investigation? How is there no focus on Hemraj and what happened to him? How are servants implicated where there isn't even a confession in the narco analysis? Can honor killing be even considered? Is this a case of revenge stemming from the class divide that exists in our society today? What really happened on the night of 15th May and the early hours of 16th May will still remain a mystery.